Bitwise has just declared the 4-year Bitcoin cycle is dead. What does this mean? Well, it means a massive flood is coming to Bitcoin. And Adam Back is calling for Bitcoin treasury companies to overtake the Magnificent Seven and in just 12 to 24 months. Oh, and Bitwise isn't just declaring the 4-year cycle dead. They're saying Bitcoin's ready to explode to 1 million. But wait, that's not bullish enough, says Max Keiser, who's saying $2.2 million Bitcoin is in play, and he's citing Bitcoin Treasuries. Welcome back, I'm Rustin, and it appears Hal Finney's prediction is coming to fruition, and Bitcoin is about to become completely unreasonable.
Just analyzing predictions, everyone's trying to be safe and be reasonable. What's a reasonable Bitcoin price? Maybe double. So you see a lot of 200, 250s, and maybe a couple at 3, 4, 5, and then 1 million. But I think Bitcoin is not a reasonable thing. We're not going to gradually go up. I mean, we went from 0 to 105 now in 16 years, right? And we've seen Bitcoin do 10x's, 17x's over very short time frames. And if you look at the history of Bitcoin, when Bitcoin did do a 17x, nothing was happening. Absolutely zero was going on. It just went up.
Unreasonable, possibly unaffordable. We have massive news to get to. Send it!
4-year cycle? Is it over?
Yeah.
Woo!
It's over.
Okay, hold on. Explain.
Well, I mean, so my view of the 4-year cycle is you have a catalyst that brings new pools of capital in. So 2011, it was the launch of Coinbase. Retail investors could buy Bitcoin, new capital, then leverage builds up and eventually it pops. 2015, the introduction of Ethereum. 2019, DeFi. 2023, it was Grayscale winning its lawsuit in March against the SEC. We're going to get ETFs bringing in capital. The reason I think it's probably not going to play out over 4 years is I think that's a longer inflow of capital than retail hot ball of money, which was the past 3. And then secondly, we have yet another of those catalysts in November, which is the election completely changing the game in terms of institutional adoption. So even if the ETF-driven cycle would have built up, leveraged, and popped and receded, we have this second tidal wave that's just so much bigger than that first one. It's going to overwhelm it. So will there be, pullbacks? We're seeing one now as leverage comes out of the system, of course. But the election was such a sea change that it's like, it doesn't matter. Yes, there may be this natural thing, but it's just going to get bulldozed over. That doesn't mean we've repealed pullbacks, but I think this cycle is going to be much longer than people think. I definitely don't think this pullback is the end. I think 2025 will be a great year. I think 2026 will be a great year. I think 2027 will be a great year. And we'll see about 2028.
Bullish! And we have more from Matt Hogan in a minute, but let's jump into some bullish headlines. Boom! Adam Back. The largest Bitcoin companies will soon pass Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, and Tesla in market cap. That's right, the Bitcoin 7 is becoming greater than the Magnificent 7. Get ready. And probably leading the way there will be Strategy, who just acquired 15,355 Bitcoin for approximately $1.42 billion as of April 27th. Strategy now hodls 553,555 BTC acquired for $37.9 billion. Now let's put this buy in perspective. In 1 week, MicroStrategy purchased, 37% of 21 Capital's starting stack. At this rate, not even the US government will be able to overtake Strategy's Bitcoin holdings. This is insane. Strategy now owns 2.8% of all mined Bitcoins. Now, what if I told you that Strategy was synthetically halving Bitcoin? Hold on to your butts, because once you see this, you can't unsee it. Let's go. Most people think Bitcoin's supply curve is untouchable, fixed, immutable, sacred. They might be wrong. Strategy is manually rewriting Bitcoin's scarcity schedule, not with code, but with balance sheet firepower. After the 2024 halving, miners produced about 13,500 Bitcoin a month. Sailor's Strategy is now absorbing a massive chunk, sometimes 30, 40, 50% or more of the new supply. That's a synthetic halving. Not every 4 years, every time Strategy fires another billion-dollar shot like this. In fact, Strategy has acquired 379,800 BTC in just 182 days, more than 2,000 Bitcoin a day, far outpacing global mining. And here's the brutal part, the cost of capital. As Bitcoin becomes more scarce, lending against it will cost more. Borrowing it will become a luxury reserved for whales and nation states. Everyone else paying crushing premiums or left begging for scraps. Michael Saylor is setting the new cost of capital for the next 100 years. And Strategy is showing no signs of slowing down, and neither do the ETFs. Last week, US spot Bitcoin ETFs recorded a net inflow of 31,323 BTC, and in terms of Bitcoin, it was the 5th largest weekly inflow on record. You know, I wonder where Bitcoin is headed with all this demand.
My favorite view of the value of Bitcoin on a long-term basis is to look at the size of the market it's going after. I think Bitcoin is well on its way to disrupting gold. That's a $20 trillion market. I think it's going to be used for international transaction and cross-border transactions. That's another many trillion-dollar market. And then you can divide that by the number of Bitcoin and you end up with a target amount. At Bitwise, we think it's going to cross $1 million by 2029. I think from a shorter-term perspective, you can just look at supply and demand in the market. Right? The big criticism of Bitcoin is the price is set by supply and demand. But that's also a real benefit when you're in a market like today, where again, we're producing 160,000 Bitcoin a year and ETFs are buying 500,000. Right? Something has to give. And I think what gives is price resistance and ultimately it goes higher.
I think every pension fund should be allocated to Bitcoin. When I was a reporter, I covered just how so many of these pension funds are essentially underwater. It's so sad. But I heard actually, and I'm curious if you could tell me if this is true, that let's say there's a pension fund interested in allocating to Bitcoin. They actually have to go out and meet with a consultant for the consultant to do due diligence on Bitcoin. And that could take months and months. And if the consultant says, no, you shouldn't invest in it, then they just pass on it. Is that true? Are there gatekeepers?
It's mostly true. Yeah. So, I mean, the deep institutional investor market is a market with tier after tier after tier, because those people want their jobs. And if it goes wrong, they want someone to point at and say it was their fault. That said, we've been working with a number of consultants for a significant number of years, and many of them are already allocating. That's why you're starting to see this bubble up through the end. I'll add one more thought from an institutional perspective, because I think people overlook it. Crypto's a $3 trillion market right now. If you have a 0% allocation to crypto, you're effectively short.
Yeah.
Right. When we talk about people allocating 1 or 2% to Bitcoin, that's just to get to neutral. And I think institutions are starting to recognize that. Once you accept it as part of this pie, you need to have at least a little bit, or you're making an active bet against it. And they're not comfortable doing that either. So I think you're going to see this 1-2% thing really take off at the institutional level over the next few years.
You think that's bullish? Wait until we show you why Max Keiser says $2.2 million Bitcoin is in play, and why none other than the author of the Bitcoin Standard, Saifedean Ammous, sees a $100 to $300 trillion future for Bitcoin. But before we bring it home today, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp while we take a moment to recognize our friends powering this show over at the Bitcoin Way. I don't know if you guys saw the news at a Coinbase, but don't risk your Bitcoin being rehypothecated by Baldilocks. Don't get caught holding IOUs. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges, get into self-custody, and learn how to hold your freedom money with confidence. Visit thebitcoinway.com and begin your journey towards Bitcoin sovereignty today. And if you're looking to get started, you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation using that link in the show notes. You ever try to explain to your friends that everything Halfpenny predicted in 2010 is coming to fruition? And they just ask if you caught the game last night. Well, not anymore. Thanks to the Orange Pill app, you can stack friends who stack sats. It's the ultimate hub to connect with fellow Bitcoiners, find meetups, and discover every Bitcoin conference happening near you and across the country. Bitcoin is better with friends, and now you can zap them instantly all in one app. What are you waiting for? Download the Orange Pill app today, go hit a local meetup, and who knows? The connections you make could last a lifetime.
Thought this is insane. But here we are, it's going up. And I think, it's still early days in the sense of just numbers, because I think it's it's not a matter of consumer adoption. It's not a matter of how many people download the iPhone, how many people download a Bitcoin app. For me, it's about the size of the cash balances more than the number of people. And so you can look at the size of the cash balances that are in dollars. There are, or dollars or dollar-based currencies, which are all the other fiat currencies in the world. You've got around $100 trillion in fiat currencies. You have another $100 trillion in bonds, and you have something like another $30 trillion in gold and some other assets, maybe real estate and stocks. Some of that you could think of as being a cash substitute, which Bitcoin is competing with. So I would say the total market for a monetary asset is about $300 trillion. Bitcoin's already at 2 trillion, which is, I mean, impressive, because in 15 years, going from 0 to 2 trillion is the fastest that we've ever seen. We've never had an asset, anything, grow this fast. So it is quite impressive, but still got a long way to go. And I would say you could say that Bitcoin is the monetary standard of the world when it is the largest of these assets, probably around something in the range of 100 trillion or so. So still a while away. But with Bitcoin, you never really know how long it could take. That could be another few months, because we've seen these crazy pumps in Bitcoin. But most likely it's not going to be a few months. Most likely it's going to be several years. And that's fine. I think it's a process that needs time. People need to accumulate cash balances. People need to become more familiar with how to use Bitcoin. And I think over time, it's just inevitable, because the people who accumulate Bitcoin will witness the value of their cash balances increase, whereas the people who don't accumulate Bitcoin will witness their cash balances decrease in value.
Let's go. So Bitcoin from 100K, adding 2 zeros. Well, that gets us to Hal Finney's $10 million Bitcoin prediction, and also why Max Keiser is calling for $2.2 million Bitcoin. Look at this. Hal Finney predicted Bitcoin banks in 2010. Do you guys know what Saylor is building? And 21 Capital aims to compete. We have massive ETF, nation states, sovereign wealth, and institutional demand, but a record low supply of Bitcoin on exchanges. It seems like things are about to get unreasonable. And Hal Finney was right.
Bitcoin is the one universally acknowledged commodity. If we let banks in the United States use Bitcoin and custody it and sell it and buy it and loan against it, if the United States government begins to hold it in a strategic reserve, the beneficiary will be America.
If you could talk to President Trump and say, here's the one thing I would tell you to do to ensure that America leads the way in the crypto space, what would you tell him?
I would say he's already done the first thing, which is highlight Bitcoin as a store of value, as digital gold, and put the United States support behind a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The second thing is to support the creation in law of a legitimate path for issuers in the United States to issue digital tokens, digital securities, and digital currency. Because if American companies can create those digital assets, we will become bankers to the world.
What does the future look like to you with Bitcoin, with cryptocurrency in general? Where do you see it 5, 10, or even 100 years from now?
I think big tech is going to embrace Bitcoin. They're going to let you hold your Bitcoin on your iPhone, on your Android phone. It will find its way into Microsoft software, Amazon software, Google, Apple software. I think that banks are going to embrace Bitcoin. So your bank's going to give you a loan against your Bitcoin. It'll buy Bitcoin for you. Insurance companies will start to support Bitcoin. I think families will increasingly begin to see it as their savings account. The yoga studio, the restaurant, the hotel chain, they'll be able to raise capital in order to improve their business and to innovate. And I think that sound money, that will spread through South America, Africa, Asia. It'll tread to China. So I think the future is American values, American technology, not just making America great, but also spreading economic prosperity to the entire world.
Well, Michael Saylor, I want to say thank you. Thanks for breaking it down for us, making it more palatable, I think, to the average person to understand and feel comfortable with, because it really does feel like this is the future, this is where we're headed, and thanks for joining us for a little bit.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And this battle, these synthetic halvings caused by these massive institutions and this race to accumulate Bitcoin is why Max Keiser is making a $2.2 million Bitcoin forecast. And based on Saylor's past comments, and with all this new news and the repeal of SAB 121, well, buckle up, my friends, because unreasonable may become unaffordable. It was foretold. Roll it.
It would be a major, major breakthrough if you saw any of those three things. And I'll end with this one observation. I tweeted this last week, but I think it's very powerful. It's if the banks can hold this stuff on their balance sheet, then a whole new class of investors are going to buy it. People are going to put in billion and multi-billion-dollar orders to buy it as a treasury asset. Nobody's going to sell it because there's no reason to sell it if you can borrow against it at LIBOR plus or at SOFR plus 50 basis points. Right, so you'll be borrowing against Bitcoin at SOFR plus 50 or SOFR plus 100 basis points. No one's ever going to sell it, and then, as I joked, you won't be able to afford it. I mean, you will be able to afford it, but everybody gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. When the banks normalize it, and you can draw a $100 million credit line at 100 basis points from an FDIC insured bank, at that point, right, we're going to blow through the market cap of gold by a factor of 10.
Right.
So I think the best thing is those three things are highly likely to happen. I don't know if they happen in 36 months or 24 months or 12 months, but I would be shocked if it's more than 36 months. And I hope, guys, it doesn't happen in 12 months, because my view is the longer it takes, the more progressive the grind, the more time I have to buy more of it.
And I think right now, if I'm not mistaken,
all the boxes are ticked and everyone is looking for a sovereign store of value. Now there's just the question of, does Bitcoin win the currency war, or has it already won?
I think it's held up exceptionally well. I think Bitcoin bulls should be inspired by the performance, and it's set up to rally significantly if we get a period of stability in the broader equity markets. It's worth remembering the last time we had true economic chaos during the start of COVID, Bitcoin wicked down to $5,000 and even below that. Today, we're talking about $80,000. It's a different asset. It has a broader distribution of institutional ownership. And again, I think what it's telling you is once this market volatility stabilizes, we're going to see it return to new all-time highs and then beyond. It's really a display of strength from my perspective.
I want to jump off of the spot Bitcoin market and talk about options market, because in the middle of all this, at the start of April, you launched a covered call strategy over at Bitwise. How does this work, and what's the adoption been like?
Yeah, we're really pleased by the reception we've had for these strategies. They write covered calls on leading crypto equities like MicroStrategy or Marathon or Coinbase. The idea is that the defining feature of crypto, one of its defining features, is volatility. And how do you translate volatility into an asset? Well, you write calls against volatile positions and you can generate really substantial income. So we've seen strong trading, particularly in the MicroStrategy product, IMIST. I think it's going to have a broad reception from investors who want to have exposure to crypto, but also generate significant yields and significant income over time.
What role does cryptocurrency play in a world where these currencies across the world are becoming more volatile?
I love that question. I think the answer to who wins in this currency war is Bitcoin, right? When I watched all the tariff confusion play out, and what will Trump do, and what will China do, and how many bilateral deals will we negotiate, the thing that's clearest to me from all that is that we should expect the US dollar to move lower, that we're moving from a world of the US dollar being the sole reserve currency to a world with potentially multiple reserve currencies. Bitcoin benefits when fiat currencies go lower. Bitcoin benefits when there's new space for reserve assets. I think it's the cleanest investment response to the chaos and confusion we're seeing from this tariffs, specifically because it's the hedge against fiat currency debasement. And I think we're setting up for that in the US, in China, in Europe, and around the world.
What do you guys think? Has Bitcoin already won? Will Bitcoin treasury companies overtake the Mag 7 in the next 24 months? Let us know what you think below. And my friends, the Bitcoin takeover of Las Vegas is just weeks away. That's right, Bitcoin is taking over Las Vegas May 27th through the 29th. The biggest Bitcoin event of the year is headed to the Venetian. And all these guys you saw today, they're gonna be there. You don't wanna miss it. And the Simply Bitcoin team will be on site. So don't forget to grab those tickets and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp by sharing the Sound Money Gospel. This is gonna be nuts. Things just feel stupidly bullish right now. I don't know. I can feel it in my loins. Hey, don't forget to set those notifications for the best in Bitcoin delivered to you daily. And I'll catch you all next time. Love you guys. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, fuck you.